Welcome back to Hope's Homemade Kitchen. If you're new here, I'm Hope, and each week I bring you step-by-step recipes that you can make in your own kitchen. Today, we're making lasagna bolognese with bechamel sauce. Now, typically when I make lasagna, I do use a meat sauce, but I also use ricotta and mozzarella cheese. We won't be doing that today with the bechamel sauce. The only cheese we'll be using is Parmesan cheese. Now, I'm getting my recipe from a popular YouTuber, Becky, over at Acre Homestead. I'm using her recipe today, and I'll link it in the description box below. Let's get started, and I'll show you the ingredients. The ingredients you'll need for the lasagna bolognese are a large onion, 2 celery ribs, 2 carrots, olive oil, minced garlic, Italian sausage, ground beef, salt and pepper, red pepper flakes, tomato paste, a dry red wine, crushed tomatoes, whipping cream, milk, butter, Parmesan cheese, nutmeg, flour, and oven-ready lasagna. Now I'm going to get started with prepping my vegetables. Now the recipe calls for finely minced vegetables. I'm actually going to be using my food processor today, and we'll see how that works. But I think overall this will give us a better texture of vegetable for the sauce. Before I chop up celery, I'll just take the end of my knife and just pull the strings out like that. I know that, some people may think that's getting rid of some fiber, but to me, then you don't have to worry about those things that get, caught in your teeth. So now I'm going to wash these, and we'll use our food processor to chop them up. Okay, that's not bad at all, actually. I'll pull out some of the pieces that didn't quite get minced enough, but I think that'll work just fine. Okay, next we're going to add the onions, carrots, and celery to a Dutch oven with 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and we're going to cook those down for about 10 minutes. Okay, I'll turn the heat on medium-high. And into my Dutch oven, I'll put about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And you can use any kind of oil you prefer. I'm going to add in my veggies. This is going to be in a bolognese sauce, and I'll be cooking that down for over an hour. So much of these vegetables will also cook down as well. So again, you'll need to cook this down for about 10 minutes. And then we're going to be adding in our ground beef and Italian sausage. Now the recipe calls for 1 pound of ground beef. This is a little bit over that just because it came in like a multi-pack. I'm just going to go ahead and use it. It's 1.3 of what I'm using, but the recipe calls for 1 pound. I'm also adding in 1 pound of mild Italian sausage. You can use whatever spice you like in your Italian sausage. I'm going to be adding in some crushed red pepper because I do like a little spice in mine. You don't want big chunks of meat in this sauce. I'm trying to break down the meat chunks as much as I can, so it's more of it allows for a little smoother sauce. Okay, to this I'm going to be adding in my minced garlic. Be adding in a full tablespoon. Now, if you have fresh garlic, I would encourage you to use that. I'm using what I have today. You can adjust the garlic level to your liking. So we'll let that cook for about a minute. Now, if you're using fresh garlic, you want to use about 5 garlic cloves and finely mince those. Okay, you'll want to add 2 teaspoons of salt, 2 teaspoons of pepper. I'm going to add in 2 teaspoons of crushed red pepper, can certainly adjust to your taste on any of the seasonings. Okay, I'm also adding in 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. We'll cook the seasonings and the tomato paste down until it's really rich in color. Just going to cut some fresh basil to put in the sauce. One of the fun parts about this time of year and all of the fresh herbs and vegetables is that you can pick your own herbs. We just have a little raised bed garden where we grow a few different herbs. Now you can certainly use dried basil in this as well. The original recipe calls for a tablespoon of dried basil. I'm using 10 to 12 fresh basil leaves, and I'll taste it later to see if maybe it can take more. But this will go right in the sauce now. So the recipe calls for a cup of dry red wine. At this point, I'm going to add in the red wine. And then after it's cooked down a little bit, then I'll add in my tomatoes. That also gives it a really nice, rich red color. Now you do not have to use dry red wine. You can leave it out completely. I just think it really adds a nice depth of flavor. Okay, that's cooked down pretty good. I'm going to be adding in my tomatoes. Now these are whole tomatoes, the San Marzano tomatoes with basil leaf in them. So I'll be breaking those up. The recipe calls for crushed tomatoes, but this is what I bought, so we're gonna crush those tomatoes. Man, that sauce has a beautiful color. So I'm gonna simmer this sauce for about at least an hour, maybe a little bit longer. While the bolognese sauce continues to cook, I'm going to warm up some milk for the bechamel sauce. Now it calls for 4.5 cups of whole milk. I only have 2% milk, so I am going to put 2% milk and a little bit of cream in. So that's 1, 2, 3 cups of 2% milk, and to that, since I don't have whole milk, I want to richen it up a little bit, so I'll be adding in about 1.5 cups of cream. So I'm going to warm this up a little bit, so when we start with our bechamel sauce, we'll be heating butter, adding in the flour, and then the milk. It's better for less lumps if you start with warmer milk. So I'm not going to boil it, I'm just going to heat it up a little bit. The instructions say to over medium heat, add your butter, nutmeg, salt, and pepper, and melt your butter. So a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of pepper. I'm just going to eyeball it here. It also calls for half a teaspoon of freshly ground nutmeg. I thought I had some nutmeg pods, but I don't. So I'm using the bottled stuff, which should be just fine. If you have fresh nutmeg, then go ahead and use it. So I can see how they would want you to add white pepper. It would just make for a prettier sauce, but I don't think it makes any difference really. I'm not sure a lot of people carry white pepper in their kitchen. Now that the butter is all melted, I'm going to add in 1 cup of flour. We're kind of just making a roux here, but we don't want to brown the roux. So it's more of a white sauce. So just stir it till the lumps come out of it. So once you put the flour in, you want to cook on medium for about 2 minutes. Lumps will come out of there, the flour will be done, you won't have that raw taste. Okay, so it's been about 2 minutes. I'm going to turn it down a little bit. I'm going to take my cream that I warmed up and slowly add it in. I want to stir that until all the lumps are out and the sauce is smooth. The sauce seems really thick. I don't know if it's supposed to be that thick or not. I am going to add a little bit more milk. Okay, after you add the milk, it says to cook 5 to 7 minutes until the sauce thickens. But it seemed to thicken up right away. I'm still going to add some more milk. This is the first time I'm making this, so we're learning this together. Looks like a nice sauce right there. I think that's good. So I'm going to put a lid on until we're ready for that. So we'll need 1.5 cups of shredded Parmesan cheese. Okay, we'll see if that's 1.5 cups. Now the sauce has been simmering for over an hour. The last ingredient is to add in 1 cup of heavy cream, and then we will adjust the seasonings as needed. I don't know if this is traditional or not, but it's what the recipe says, so we're going to do it. It looks really good. So now I'm going to taste it and see if it needs any different spices. The salt is good, the pepper is good. I think the cream really gives it a nice texture. It is a little spicy, even for me. And I put 2 teaspoons of crushed red pepper, which the original recipe did not call for. So that's my fault. But if you like spicy, then go for it. If you don't, you can leave the crushed red pepper out or reduce it. Okay, now we're ready to assemble it. Now I'm putting this in, the recipe calls for a 5-quart casserole dish, which is a little larger than a 13 by 9. So I think this is about a 10 by 14 and a half for a 5-quart dish. So if your dish holds 5 quarts, you should be good. If not, you might have a little bit of the filling left over. So the first thing we want to do is put a layer of the Bolognese sauce. It smells so good. And then we layer with the lasagna noodles. These are the oven-ready ones. So no cooking necessary, which is a bonus in my opinion. These are very thin. I'm not sure how many should go in there. I guess about like that. Now I need 2 cups of the bechamel sauce. All right, so on top of the bechamel, I want 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese. 2 cups of Bolognese right on top of the Parmesan. Okay, then we're going to do our lasagna noodles again. The bechamel right on top of the noodles. Half a cup of Parmesan on top of that again. Bolognese. This is so much easier than having to boil lasagna noodles. I think that seems like it's pretty full. I might try to make a small pan. I'm going to end it with some bolognese right on top. I might have to put a pan underneath in my oven just as a precaution in case it does boil over. And then I think I'll just sprinkle the rest of that on top. So we're going to bake that in a 400-degree oven for 45 minutes. Found a little pan for the overflow. Let's see if we can make a little mini lasagna here. Okay, the pans are out of the oven after exactly 45 minutes. I took the little one out a little earlier because there's less volume there, but I think it was a good choice not to put everything into one pan. I didn't get a lot of spillage in the oven, so that was good too. Let's let that cool a little bit and then we'll slice it and give it a taste test. Look at that beautiful slice of lasagna. So I had never had a lasagna with bechamel sauce before. I think this would be good for someone who doesn't like the texture of some of the cheeses that are traditional in lasagna, such as ricotta. Oh, that is really, really good. Very creamy texture. And there's a lot of cream in here, so that's understandable. But you don't even miss the cheese. And we did have Parmesan cheese in here. And now I thought the sauce was going to be too spicy, but it blends so well with the creamy cheeses that it's just right, actually, at least for me. I really think you should try this. There's a lot of ingredients and it seems involved, but it's really just a step-by-step thing. I think you can do it in your own kitchen. Thank you so much for joining me again here on Hope's Homemade Kitchen. Please consider subscribing if you haven't done so already, and let your friends know. Share it with them, like, and ring that bell to be notified of new videos that come out. I'm so happy you joined me here today. We'll see you next time.